Today we will visit a site where players regularly post their ideas. Thanks to it, they have already added goats, update caves and rocks, swarms, and much more. On this site there is tab under review, that is, something that the developers will 100% add, but perhaps in some modified form. Well, the first idea we'll talk about is fruit trees and bushes. The idea is to add trees for certain fruits. It sounds so at first, because people already use the best food in the game, but it's needed more not even for gameplay, but for world diversity. Agree, most of the trees we have now look monotonous and don't fit the scale and depth that Minecraft has. You can add a pineapple bush or a palm tree or whatever just to diversify the game world. At the moment the idea works quite well. In 1.14 a berry bite was released. In 1.16, 1.17 and 1.19 we've already added trees that grow fruits. And this is displayed visually and not like with the same apple tree. The next idea was also mostly invented for the atmosphere. The player suggests adding jellyfish, which would perfectly complement the underwater world, which currently doesn't look so alive. Before you throw tomatoes at me, understand that the oceans have become much more alive, but not enough because you mainly see two types of fish there, cod and salmon. Now, this is not enough. In terms of gameplay, this mob should simply feel sorry for the players, and that's where its mega functionality ends. But it is clear that the player is interested in the developers coming up with a use for it, and his ideas are just sketches. The whole thing was published back in 2018, and you may ask where the jellyfish are and whether we will live to see them at all, but everything has its time. If an idea is in the tab under review, this does not mean that it will be implemented here and now. This only guarantees the appearance on something similar in future versions. The situation with the seasons is quite controversial, but I will explain later. First, I will say that the whole idea is that for each biome, except for cold and hot, there will be seasons. That is winter, spring, summer, autumn, if someone is less than 0 years old. So, now closer to the point, this will not be implemented, because the developers have repeatedly said that it is player who should case the events that occur in the game. And besides, it will be convenient. Personally, I don't want to constantly adjust my buildings, especially when I already have 2 villages built. Why then is the idea in the tab under review? Yes, it's simple. The developers want to add not seasons, but variations of biomes in different seasons. That is most likely the same ordinary birch forest will have its autumn and winter version in separate biomes. In principle, the idea with such an arrangement will ideally fit into the game and complement the ordinary world. Owls. That is all you need to know about them. Okay, this time the player really tried to work on this mob in terms of gameplay. The whole idea with the owl is that you can tame it like a parrot. It will sit on your shoulder, and in addition to that, it will send books to player to whom you wrote them. The idea is mostly needed on servers, especially RP, especially for Harry Potter fans. I think that they will create a separate book for the owl, in which you will need to write the name of the player to whom you sent it. There is another version of this idea. Owls will send not books but items, but in fact the idea will already be implemented in 1.19, since LA does almost the same thing. Let's get back to the atmosphere and talk about the oasis. Everything speaks for itself here. Firstly, a new type of tree. Secondly, an atmospheric place. Thirdly, some of this content was already presented at Minecon 2018. The only downside that another players noted is that the desert itself is a regular size, like all biomes. This means that the oasis will not feel like something very rare. Although, on the other hand, the same well structure fits perfectly into the game, so it's unclear. In general, I would like to see more mini biomes in the biomes themselves. For example, a waterfall in the forests or a cluster of the small rocks in the middle of the ocean. The next topic is very painful for Minecraft, but it does not stop being important: ambient sounds. The player liked that in version 1.13 underwater sounds made the world much more alive and rich, so he suggested adding sounds of wind when very high up, rustling leaves in the forests, constant sounds of caves, and sounds of birds and animals to the game. In fact, the idea has already begun to be implemented, but in 1.18 they did not add any sounds. There is no wind in the mountains, the caves are quite as a cemetery. In short, they forgot about sounds in this update, and it is very offensive. I hope that in future updates or even in 1.22 they will add at least a little ambient. This is where it gets really crazy, because this idea is to add a magical forest to Minecraft, and it was put in the review tab. Naturally, million theories will come out about what exactly the developers will take from it. But first I will explain what exactly the player wants from this forest. Giant forests, mushroom houses, and a new fairy mob. Everything I listed for the most part suits not just a new biome but a new dimension. Although on the other hand the game has a mushroom forest, which is the only one of its kind so unusual. If you add it to the regular world, it will most likely be so rare that you can only find it for 10,000 blocks. Another controversial concept is crabs and lobsters. The guy was really into the whole fishing thing because he wrote in detail that it needs to be caught, cooked, and can also be boiled. In short, in terms of application, it's complete crap. It's just a new type of food, like meat from cows or pigs, and I think the developers were not interested in this point, but in the one about crab traps. This is a block similar to cage, which, when placed in water, will will automatically bring your crab meat. This mechanic is unclear in that the game has never had a block that would bring you drop from some mob automatically. I think this is what the developers like. There are no problems with sunstorms. Minecraft definitely needs this. When it rains in other biomes, hot ones like savanna and desert just remain with a dark sky. Sunstorms will fix the situation and make the biome much more atmospheric. I think a sandstorm will go when it rains in other biomes. It's logical. Well, that's all I can say. This cool natural phenomenon should be in the game. By the way, they came up with a similar idea with the swamp. It says that there should be a little fog in the swamp biome, like in the ocean for example, to reduce visibility. The idea is good, but in my opinion, the developers like the fog as a natural phenomenon and not a convention in just one biome. Perhaps in the future we should expect fog on par with rain or rain with thunderstorms. Write in the comments your ideas that you would like Mojang to add for consideration, and like the video so that it can be promoted better. Well, for now, bye.